Hi guys, Luke and Sarge here, and welcome to another episode of the Young Professionals podcast. Luke, who do we have on the show today?
Sarge, we've got a very exciting guest on today, Alex Saundry, who is a player manager, mainly focusing on AFLW players across the country. But Alex is also a former AFLW player herself, playing for the GWS Giants up in Sydney in their inaugural AFLW season. Starting her education journey after high school with a Bachelor of Business majoring in sports management and marketing, before deciding to find her way into the sports industry, Alex eventually ended up working for Paul Connors, who is a esteemed player manager himself and was the driving force behind Paul's business, Connors Sports Management, CSM, pushing into the female market. In her 4.5 years at CSM, Alex developed a reputation as one of the leading managers in women's footy, signing the likes of Katie Brennan, Tayla Harris, and Darcy Vescio. She has since gone from strength to strength, establishing her own shop, More Than Management, in 2018, adding some exciting talent to her stable and continuing to push women's sport to new heights. With a personal motto of why wait for it to happen, Alex really is an inspiring person, and we are super keen to chat with her today. Alex, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on, boys. It's great to be a part of the podcast and really keen to get stuck into it.
Oh, I like the enthusiasm. Alex, let's kick off. We like to start things off by understanding what people are doing in their roles day to day. So why don't we jump into what a player management or player manager rather is, and what does your day to day look like?
I guess a player manager's role really differs every day, every week, and in different peak parts of the year. It goes from trade when you're negotiating their sporting contracts in different sporting disciplines, and also commercial contracts that really last that whole 12 months. So you're either, the biggest part of my job that I love is connecting with and seeing players. So, the face-to-face contact every day and that really building a trusting relationship. So that's like the first part of my job that I love. Then, helping them build a great financial understanding of where their money's going, what money's coming in, but then creating great disciplines around that. And then eventually, I guess, obviously asset management in terms of housing, shares and financial advice and tax and all of that we look into, and we use really great people to do that as well, and just making sure we're creating a great little team around each athlete. They can really start to take ownership of not only their career in their sport but also post-sport. And look, I'm lucky to look after an amazing array of athletes from all different disciplines. Just recently adding a girl from rugby sevens who's actually now a full-time athlete. So I guess the service I provide to her is very different to the service I provide for the netballers, the soccer players, and even the AFLW who are only semi-professional. So it's a great understanding of how lucky some people are to be in a sporting discipline full-time. But then I also love the challenge of when the athletes are part-time to actually help establish themselves off the field. So that includes helping them either get into education, pushing them to go and do little courses or something that's going to better them, or, helping them find a job in the discipline where they want to end up in post-sporting career. So it's kind of a full circle. I can be managing people's bank accounts to some girls, just creating a great structure and discipline in finance. But I really enjoy the contract negotiation side of it and establishing relationships with clubs in different sporting disciplines. But mostly the commercial side, I love dealing with Nike, and most recently last year went to, Portland and Oregon in the Nike head office and, met some really amazing people over there. So creating great relationships the commercialization of an athlete's brand is something that I just love, because you can actually really capture a story and share that. So I guess that kind of touches on a few different things, but it is a very holistic type job, that's for sure.
You spoke a bit about, you mentioned a fair few times building trusting relationships, both with your players and then with sponsors, etc. as well. How do you go about doing that?
Oh, I guess first and foremost, you've just got to and it's not to brag, you've just got to be a good person that doesn't really, when you're creating that relationship, not to have an agenda and not to have, the desire of trying to get $100,000 commercial contract out of them. Understanding that, really understanding where women's sport is at the moment, and we're on a wave, and being really realistic with some conversations, either with athletes or with brands, and not over-promising. there are a lot of people in the game at the moment trying to get in and, you know, promising these female athletes the world, and then 1 year in, they haven't delivered on any of that. So they come to me and they're like, well, why doesn't this happen? And I'm like, you're not even in the top 20% of the competition. How are you going to get a commercial contract? So what's the point in promising that when, you know, I can't deliver that, because that's just going to speak badly for my brand. But, you know, if I'm promising something to a commercial brand that can't actually happen, or the athlete isn't capable of doing it, they're not going to trust me. So it's really important to be realistic. But, you know, I love connecting. I love talking. I love checking in. You know, during this time when we've been through COVID, it's been really hard to see athletes face to face, because I can't travel. I can't get on a plane and go see the girls interstate. You know, I can't be part of that journey physically, but I can, you know, via phone, text, Zoom and all of that. But creating that relationship for me and seeing people face to face. So, you know, I might not earn a lot out of a client based in Perth, but if I say I'm going to travel there once a year and make that commitment, I make that commitment. And, you know, that's the person I am, and the person that I've, you know, I guess grown up being through school and everything. I've just loved building relationships and talking to people. And, I think it's just ingrained in me. I'm a bit of a people person. So I think any kind of piece of a little advice to, you know, people, when you walk into a racetrack or when you walk into a stadium, you know, greet the security guard, greet the gate person. Don't just look for the executives at the top level. And, you know, they aren't the people that make some industries tick, and you've really got to make sure that you're respectful to everyone and what their impact is on an organisation or on something. So, you know, I'm really, really big on respecting everyone in an organisation, and not just kind of going, I need to connect with the CEO. That's really important. So,
yeah, Alex, I think that was the main point that I took away from our chat before this interview today, and I certainly want to come back to that. And that seemed to be a really, I guess, strong kind of foundation of how you've taken your professional life and something you learned early on. So we can come back to that. Talking about the kind of day-to-day as well, going into contract negotiations. I know if people are like, you know, watching Fox Sports News or whatever it might be in terms of hearing about how players get certain contracts with clubs and stuff, I think it goes under the radar a little bit, the conversations that managers would be having with sponsors and I guess parties outside of the club that they play for. What does that look like? And say, obviously not talking figures or anything like that, but what does that process look like when, you know, do players get to a certain level of notoriety, then say, okay, now I can go and get a sponsorship, or do sponsors kind of come to them? Or can you walk us through that process?
Yeah, I guess it works both ways. Like I'm an agent that says to an athlete, you need to perform on field before I can go and market you, and, you know, be really good at the main discipline that we're here for, and that's to play sport. It's to either win a flag, win a Brownlow, or whatever that is. So be really good at that, and let me take care of the relationships in the background. So a great example is probably Maddie Press-Parkers, who just recently won the AFLW entire league best and fairest at the age of 19. Look, she was, you know, she went pick 3 in the draft. She was probably the best in the draft, and nominated Metro, which slid her to pick 3 and not pick 1, because they're zone-based draft. But, you know, I said to her, don't worry about the sponsorship. And she goes, and I'm like, just go play footy, have fun and play footy. You're 18. Go play footy and have fun. And at the time, you know, she had a Nike boots and runners deal, and that's great. But, you know, over time that, at the age of 18, she won the club best and fairest. She won the NAB Rising Star. She was in the All-Australian team. And you kind of sat back and went, oh, okay, yep, that's good. You know, and no other kid had done that. And at the age of 18, everyone kind of goes, oh, okay. So then the conversations with Nike come up, and then, you know, she signs on a 3-year deal with Nike at the age of 18. And you kind of sit back and you go, wow. And then, you know, then the next year goes and wins the entire league best and fairest. And you kind of go, oh my God, dude, you know, like, amazing contract for 3 years, but, you know, this kid's just going to keep getting better and better. And it's the exact conversation I had with her even after she wins the league best and fairest, around being the best player. Because if you come next year and you can't back up a good season, not saying you need to win that medal again, but, you know, you need to come back and still be a great player to get those commercial contracts. So I'm really big on that, but also, you know, making sure you're pitching opportunities. So a girl that I managed in Fremantle, Sabrina Duffy, you know, has an amazing story of optimism and, you know, like hard work. She grew up in a foster family with parents that were drug addicts, and, you know, gave her up at a young age, and then was raised in a foster family, still, you know, still spends a lot of time with the foster care family to this day. And it's a great story of optimism. And, when I've got Tayla Harris as the main ambassador at Colgate, that, their theme for their commercial and all their advertising is optimism. So, I'm there at the forefront trying to negotiate that deal into where the commercial contracts are. And I think, managers sometimes get a bad rap for just sitting there and, taking deals that come in. But I feel like I'm really proactive in terms of, trying to genuinely not sell, it's the wrong word, but genuinely trying to push, great stories out that are really going to inspire the next gen. But I guess it's got to be relative and specific to the athlete. Like, I'm not going to go if, Katie Brennan's a vegan athlete, not fully vegan, but, part vegan, the fad craze.
Not going straight to McDonald's.
Yeah, exactly. So we did have an approach from McDonald's a year and a half ago that, there was really good money. And Katie sat there and I just said, I've got this approach that I need to, let you know about, but I'm going to advise you not to take it because, you preach vegan, you preach healthy eating, all of that. And McDonald's do an amazing amount of work in community-based that, you can spin it to make it go, well, they do a great work in Auskick and all of these different things. But she goes, no, I'm too much of, I don't want to preach something that I'm not. And that's why I love working with these athletes, because they don't want to be influencers. They don't, and there's some people in this game that are coming into sport that just want to be influencers. So it's finding that fine balance between go be really good at what you do and that's sport, and, we'll take care of the rest outside of that. But the main example is, go ahead.
So it sounds like your experience from being a quite high level player yourself, and knowing the importance.
High level, but yeah.
I reckon you'd fall in that basket quite easily. But, having that experience of knowing how important it is to just do your job, like you were saying, your main job day to day, and just be really, really good at what you do there, and kind of think things will flow from there. But you seem to be quite good at bringing your own experience to that table and imparting that on the junior or the younger people. But I'm really interested to get into kind of the nitty gritty, even just for a little bit, of what the negotiations of those kind of contracts with sponsors look like. And for yourself, I know that we can go back to your university degree soon and your work with Paul, but where did the confidence to go from being a footy player into managing other people's finances and essentially like their life income? How do you get the confidence to sit down with a big company like Nike or McDonald's in whatever case it is and say, well, no, this is the story that I'm marketing, and how do you kind of go through that process with them?
Yeah, I guess it's again, it's building that relationship, and it takes time. Like, it took, 2 or 3 years at Connors for me to develop great relationships with the likes of Nike, Adidas and all those brands, because there's so many people in this game that kind of just say, oh, this girl's the next star or this guy's the next star, and, they don't even get drafted sometimes. So you've got to be really careful with that. But I think it's the first point is building that great relationship, but then also, platforming off experiences. So like, I drew a lot off Paul and Robbie. So Paul Connors and Robbie D'Orazio, who are kind of sports management, like, they're still great mentors to this day. Like, I call them at different points in time. We've got a great relationship. We've got great rapport, but they were at Connors Sports Management, managed the likes of Nick Nananui, Patrick Dangerfield, all of those type of players that were actually at the pinnacle of their game. And at Connors, the first person the first girl that I signed at Connors Sports was Daisy Pearce, and being able to kind of, ride the wave with her. And I did, everything for Daisy, to her, her CN deal that was a great deal, to her Channel 7 deal that we built from, an ad hoc appearance-based contract to me just saying, she's not doing that anymore. And, I sat in a room with, Paul Connors, Lewis Martin, who's the head of Channel 7, and Paul kind of sat back and went, oh God, like, and he's like, you had confidence in there. And I said, yeah, because I care. Like, I care about Daisy. Like, this isn't about me. It's about someone else's life here. And I'm not asking for a huge contract. I'm asking, to have what she deserves. And that I learned a lot through managing Days. And I remember when we first managed her, and it's probably like, I guess probably the good story to tell in terms of being able to explain this to some type of degree. It was just making sure people respected her. And, we got so many requests to do free appearances in the first 6 to 12 months of me managing her. And, we said yes to a lot. We said yes to a lot of charities, and we always say yes to a lot of charities and doing the right thing. But there was a point in time where I said, this is enough. Like, you either, you pay her this to come and do this, talk to your corporate organization at a top 4 law firm, or she doesn't come. So, and then people started going, we'll pay her. And, that then evolved over time. And then we had great, evolution with different commercial deals, and they're going, that's quite on the high end. I go, yeah, because she's worth it, guys. Like, it's not, you're coming after, and she was the most talked about and requested player at the entire Melbourne Footy Club. So when you look at between men's and women, and the women's season had 1 season. So I guess I learned a lot through that, and just like, having confidence to back myself and walk in, that if your athlete's worth it, then your job is to go and do that. And like I'd fall to water if I was trying to negotiate my own contract for work, and I could never do it. Like, it was one of the hardest things to ever do. Like, I never asked for a pay, nothing like that. So,
that's what
I'm bad doing it.
Right? Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I can't do it for myself. But if I talk about like through uni and whatnot, like throughout university, I was working at, an accounting firm 1 day a week. So I was understanding how to build a relationship in a different way in terms of business, and watching them, greet people at the door in terms of the etiquette there, or the dress, and
was
really
that a very deliberate choice?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. I kind of, loved my coaching and, being out and about and doing the coaching aspect around my uni, but it was really deliberate in terms of trying to get in some way, shape or form 1 day a week at a business. And the accounting stuff was really good because I knew Paul was an accountant by trade, and that's where I wanted to get to. So I knew I needed to understand the financial side of, I guess, the world in terms of tax, which sounds a bit vague, but, I didn't know the first thing about tax, coming out of school. We don't learn about it at school. You learn a little bit about uni, but I didn't major in finance. So it was something that, I knew I had to go and do. But, I did it because I knew it was going to look good on my resume. That's why I did it. I didn't do it because I was interested in it. I didn't do it because I loved, getting paid $12 an hour. I didn't love it because I had to catch the train to work in the middle of Collins Street, I think it was near Jolimont Station at one stage too. So, there was aspects of it that I hated. I had to be at the desk at 8:30 and I wasn't able to leave till 5:15, and I had a 45-minute lunch break. And I'm like, I hate this, but I did it for 3 years because I knew doing that was going to create a better outcome and give me better experience to, be where I am right now.
It was a necessary step.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was a necessary, deliberate step, as like you said. Like it was, and I'm so glad I did it. Like I think 1 year into the business, Joseph Shahin, the company's called BR Wellington, and Joe called me up and he's like, I'd love to catch up for coffee and take you out for lunch. Like, I've just read about what you're doing. Amazing. And, we caught up for lunch and he just said, anything that I can do, please, don't hesitate to call, ask, whatever you need for tax, everything. And I'm someone that, likes to pay my way and not get things, for free, but just reconnecting with someone that, I was really scared of Joe, during my time there, I was wanting Joe, I was some 19-year-old, and he was, but I learned a lot from him particularly, and his way of work and all that. And I'm really grateful for that. But yeah, it was great to catch up with him and just talk shop about, what I'd been doing. And he was like, I can connect you with these people. And and it was great because you never know where you're going to end up, or full circle of people that you've dealt with. So it's always nice to be talking with good people.
Cool. And I think that's a great example of being a real person and building trusting relationships, because you went in there initially just for a day a week, and then you ended up being quite good friends with this Joe, and Joe was happy to take you out for lunch and help you as much as he could.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's been good. And, the girls, even in the office, you see them, a couple of them got kids now. So it's like, you can still connect and whatnot. And I was 1 day a week in there, but I think it was 3 years in the end. So again, lucky to get the job. Had no experience, and they just said, yep, great. And when I left, it was weird, but no, it was good. It was really good and even we transitioned from that stage from Jolimont, around near Jolimont Station in an office, that their business actually parted during me being there. And, I was part of that experience where the business, split between partners, and there was that separation. And so I went with, one arm of the business, and then we went to the middle of Collins Street in the hustle and bustle of the city. So I felt like, within
Welcome
that time jungle. I got, yeah, exactly. So, and you know what? I'm not going back in the jungle, that's for sure. So I like having my car.
On that, Alex, you were big on your sport at school, and then you did your Bachelor's of Business, majoring in sports management and marketing. How did you choose to do that Bachelor of Business?
I think that, as you touched on, like through school, I played any sport I could. I rode through from year 9 to year 12. I played, soccer. I did netball. I did cross country, and I was the worst runner. Like I did athletics, and I just threw myself into anything I could. And I think that, it built great discipline around me, but also the main thing I love, just being part of something that is trying to achieve a common goal, and also, enlisting and getting back young kids to join that journey too. So I guess the three aspects, in year 11, I studied business management, and I loved it. I had a great teacher, Ed Smith. I still remember him to this day, and he just made it fun, He was a witty character that made things fun at school, and I loved it. He was my homeroom teacher the next year, and I had a great relationship with him. So I took a great interest in business, and my dad was in the sports industry and sports administration at a high level, and I'd always been exposed to the sports admin side my entire life. So I guess from that spot, I loved business, but I loved sport, and I loved connecting with people. And through those three things and those three themes, I was trying to understand what I wanted to do. Like, I was obsessed with Nike, so I wanted to work at Nike head office. Like that was something that, I wanted to do. And then I also was like, I don't know if I want to be in an office with that many people and, that kind of thing. So there was so many, or at a footy club, I'd love to, football operations or anything like that. But kind of got to a point where I saw Paul's career in about like year 11, year 12, and, started to follow his career and kind of said, that's what I want to do. And people were like, where'd you get that from? And I kind of said, well, I love sport, I love connecting with people, and I love business. And through those three things, I not only get to work with footy clubs that I love and, follow footy, but I also get to work with the commercial brands that's where I want to be. So it kind of brought everything together.
Just for some students who are a little bit younger, do you want to just run, and I know you touched on who his business managers, but do you just want to touch on who Paul is in the landscape, and kind of how big of a deal working with him is, particularly given his brand?
Definitely. So Paul Connors manages the likes of, Luke Hodge, Chris Judd. He was the one in that big draft of Luke Ball, Luke Hodge, and Chris Judd, and now, like, to this day, manages Nick Nananui, Patrick Dangerfield, arguably the best male agent in the country, and has been for a very long time. And he used to work for Ricky Nixon, and then split off from Ricky Nixon and went and started his own shop. And like, we joke about how I did that to him, but he's just such a good person, and that's what really sets him apart. He's a great family man, but at the end of the day, his business is so strong because of what he does at a community level as well, like with East Melbourne Junior Knights and the East Melbourne Knights and all the Glen Iris Cricket Club and everything like that. So, he works hard for what he does and the community he makes, but arguably the best player management business for AFL in the country. And that's something, and I knew it was a small business. It wasn't, there's a lot of big businesses like TLA and those type of businesses out there now that, I wanted to work in a small business because I'd worked in a small accounting firm, and, I got to understand that you kind of got to do different things that you weren't part of your job description. And I know my time at Connors, I wanted to do everything that wasn't my job description. And, you look at kids to these days being like, I've just had to do this task and it's actually outside my job description, so I want a pay rise. And I sit there and I go, oh my God, you've just got no idea. So take the time. But yeah, he's an iconic, he's when you look at the movers and shakers list in the AFL, like he's in the top 20 or something, and big, he's a big dog, and, don't like to say that because it blows his head up, but, he's in with the AFL exec, which helped with commercial deals and all of that. So he's in with the right people. He knows the right people, but most importantly, he's got the athletes, so he can, he can say no, and he can make decisions, and he can have opinions because he's put the hard work in to get those good athletes. And that's how you become a good player agent, is having those good athletes.
Now, I didn't want to deviate from the story about you because this is about you. I just wanted to add some color to people who might not understand kind of the context on that. So you've obviously got some really good experience working for people who are quite prominent in the industry. Let's jump back to where we were in terms of your degree. Is that do you think that that was a good decision, doing that sports kind of management style degree for someone who wants to get into sports management and become a player manager? Or do you think that now that you know kind of what you wanted to do because you're there, do you think that it would have been better to kind of go straight into industry and just get some experience straight off the bat out of school?
I think there's a bit of both. I think that you've got to, for me, Paul was really big on me finishing my degree when I got there as an intern. Like I had a year left and he's like, you got to do it. You got to finish it. You need a certificate, like as a dad figure. So he was like, you need to do it. My dad and my family were very big on me finishing university and I wanted to finish it too. Like I wasn't going to start something, but throughout that university period and like if it's, I don't think it has to be any certain degree. Like I think a Bachelor of Business, there's great, sports management courses at Victoria University, La Trobe University. There's so many great courses out there now. Like I've been out of school, I've graduated in 2010. So, the evolution of all the courses at uni have, really developed. And I think it's really important that even if, Carlton College, even at the Carlton Footy Club, now have a college that people can go do diplomas and whatnot. Like, and I spoke with the students the other day and I've had so many questions since then about what they want to do or like even something like the Simon Black Academy that run footy programs and stuff. And now I spoke with them, 2 weeks ago, and there's now 2 guys in there that want to, do sports management because of kind of what I spoke about. So you don't have to have that university degree, but the biggest thing that I would say that does hold great cred because, you go through uni, it's a credible degree, you learn a lot. But I think the relationships and what I did throughout since school and the network, most importantly, that I built when I was at school and during like my first few years out of school and now is the main thing that that I can kind of, say to students and whatnot, that university isn't everything, but doing something to better yourself in terms of some type of education post school, whether it's uni, TAFE, whatever it is really important.
Alex, you said you did an internship with Paul. How did you tee that up?
Oh, well, that's a bit of a story, but when I left school, I had like a 5-year plan to get the internship with him. And I kind of, and this isn't to blow my own head up, but I was fortunate enough to be school captain at school. And through that captaincy, we had to be on the past pupils committee for 2 years after school. Mm-hmm. And doing that, like I really enjoyed being part of that and, still connecting with past pupils and, being part of the school and whatnot. But being part of that, I met this lovely lady and her name was Sandy Colombo. And, I just, again, no, agenda or anything, just, we'd chat, how was life, how's the family, all of that kind of thing. And it got to a point, I think it was like maybe the 3rd year I was part of the committee. She kind of asked, what I wanted to do. And I was like, oh, I really want to get this internship. I want to do this. She goes, oh, who do you want to do an internship with? I said, oh, Paul Connors. She goes, oh, no way. And I said, yeah, like I've been busting my gut at, TAC Cup level and volunteering at different footy clubs and, Vic Metro, Vic Country with all the girls stuff and all of that. And she goes, oh, he's actually my next door neighbour. And I said, what? And I kind of sat back and I was like, okay. And she's like, oh, give me a resume next meeting and I'll pass it to him. And I was like, okay. So I gave her my resume and within a week, Paul's wife called me to come in for an interview. And I was like, oh, this is a bit much. And I was pretty freaked out by it. Point? Oh, I was a bit like, oh, hopefully I get it. How embarrassing if I don't. Like that was my thought process. I was like, hopefully I'm good enough to get it. And I remember walking into the office at 444 Waverley Road in East Melbourne and like waiting at the front and walking into this room with Paul and, his wife, and we're sitting down there and he's just chatting, going through my resume, and he goes, oh, the internship's a no-brainer. You've got it. And I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, thanks. And, like I was trying to be really like not jump up and down with excitement. But he goes, but if you impress us enough at the end, there's a job at the end of it for you. And I kind of was like, okay. Yeah. But, some things on the resume that kind of made him say that I had a reference, the head coach of the Calder Cannons that I'd done a lot of volunteer work with. The school I went to, his daughter was about to go to, so that helped. Again, that private school network, always helps. But I was really, I guess, proud that, I made the effort to get in the door myself my way. Like I knew that I could. Dad had, connections with Paul from other contacts and whatnot. And I just kind of said to Dad, I really just want to try this on my own. And if I can't do it, absolutely, I want your help. But right now I really want to stand on my own 2 feet and not just make him proud, but really kind of, I guess, respect what the amazing education I was gifted to by my parents, and use that network and go out there and put the good schooling that I got to work. And that's why they sent me to the school I did, because of not only the amazing education but the amazing network that I can get out of it too.
Alex, you touched on a few things there that I really want to bring up in a little bit. But first off, you've already mentioned it, the attitude of, it's really important to learn the person at the gate's name and really be nice to everyone. Do you want to run us through where you kind of got that perspective from, or who imparted that on you?
Yeah, like it was from Dad. So Dad was chief executive of Racing Victoria, and it started at like harness racing, then went to the Western Bulldogs, and then went back into racing. Racing Victoria now is at CEO of New Zealand Racing in NZ, based in Wellington. But I guess when I ever went to anything with him, he'd speak to the security guard, he'd greet the gate person by name. He knew everyone. His evolution of his career, he started working as a glass boy at the harness racing track at Moonee Valley, and he worked his way up through being from a glass boy all the way to the CEO. And that was, he made every opportunity count. He made every relationship count, not out of an agenda, but just out of being a good human. And, I learned that I was really fortunate to have that in my entire upbringing. And you greet people by name, even if you don't remember their name, you need to, re-ask their name, or just being, polite. And, and I'm really lucky to have learned that from my dad. But, even like my mum, who moved over to New Zealand with my dad, and, can walk into a room and, it's pretty scary, a bunch of executives and board members. And, my mum's not the most, she's not someone that, walks around with designer handbags and anything like that. We're not like that at all. But, she will make the effort to go and speak to people and, make the effort to understand their background and everything like that. And I guess mum's always kind of brought me up to be like, don't be defined by someone's job title, and don't be defined by, Dad being in a very, top level position was never someone that, used that to get anywhere, or, I'm chief executive officer, nice to meet you. Like I'm better than you. Like he was best mates with everyone at operational level, and I know when he left and when he resigned from Racing Victoria, like everyone was heartbroken, because, for me, I learned from him, and you've got to be the heart and soul of a business to make it tick. And you've got to really understand the person, not the employee, the person. And, he really taught me that, and I'm really grateful for that. But that was, that wasn't through deliberate, you got to do this, you got to do that. That was just by his actions that, I kind of sat back and went, okay, like Dad's not flashing his, all access areas to try and get in. He's speaking to the guy by name, and he used to cover all that stuff up. Like he was never someone that wanted people to know that about him, or, he just wanted to do the best thing for the sport, but also the best thing for the employees and everything like that. So that's kind of, I guess, to answer your question, where I've, been really fortunate to get that from.
Oh, he sounds like a fantastic role model. And I think something that is important to bring up, and we've spoken about it before the chat, so I think it'll be okay, but there's a kind of a sort of an elephant in the room when you talk to people about networking, and people that have had the fantastic opportunity to go to schools kind of like the one that you went to and the like. There's an assumption that, just because you have worn that blazer and you've got that on your resume, then there's a network there. But I know you've got a really kind of humbling take on that, and it's not necessarily just because you've got it, it always stays there with you. Do you want to kind of run us through your attitude towards cultivating a network and what you have to do to really make the most of every opportunity that comes your way?
Yeah, I guess everyone always knows that when you go to a private school in Melbourne, there's a private school bubble, and only everyone knows each other from the private school bubble. But I was really fortunate. The word's probably not fortunate. I grew up in Essendon, and, I trekked from Essendon to Toorak every day, and that 45-minute travel. And, there was jokes at school that, do you need a passport to get to Essendon? Like all of those, typical funny jokes. And it never bothered me, because I was really proud of where I came from and really proud of how I was brought up. But I guess the network element of it, like through year 11 and 12, and I was always interested in, when I went to a friend's house, who their parents were, what they did, not out of an agenda, but just a genuine interest in, other people and what they were about. But when I left school, I rode throughout school, and then went into coaching rowing after school, and, coaching a crew to then being able to coach an entire cohort year level and managing coaches and whatnot, that I got to then, managing 75 students at a year 9 level that had never picked up an oar before and seeing the satisfaction to picking up an oar and then racing it ahead of schoolgirls. Like, parents were just in awe of how much their children loved the sport. And that was my job, to make the girls love the sport and be a part of it. And through that, I'd be learning parents' names. I'd be understanding parents' names. I'd be on the banks with them, telling them to come and ride with us in the thing, to, develop a relationship and a network with really high level parents, and some of them, were really up there in terms of businesses, but that never scared me, because our genuine interest and, what we were talking about was their daughter. It wasn't about them. And, the evolution of that relationship wasn't stemmed between their job title or anything. It was actually about their daughter and, how much interest and value I had for their daughter coming through from, crew 14 to crew 1. It was always the same. And that network was really important. But then even in the flip side with footy, that, at the time, it was a completely bipolar opposite to the private school network. And, you felt like a different person kind of walking from a private school network to the female footy network, because at the time it was really, really different. And, I did struggle to probably adapt it at 2010, 2011. And I ended up giving up the game and playing and just going and coaching, because I got more satisfaction out of kind of giving back than being a part of that environment at that stage. But that environment got a lot better. And, that's when I re-entered and then was fortunate enough to take the journey and go and play for the Giants. But I guess it was just the network. Even, Luke, I might touch on even the fact that, up in Sydney, when I was up there, I made the most of the network up there to make sure, the property steward, 80 up there, to the strapper and Merv and all of those kind of blokes and people that, they're really important, up to like Dave Matthews and James Avery at an executive level. And I think, GWS has an amazing culture, but, amazing people that just want great people at the footy club. And I was really fortunate to be at a club like that. And Dave's a great leader and someone that, you look up to as well, because he genuinely has an interest in people. And, that was the same as my dad. And that's kind of, I said, I love that. And that's what really made me resonate and, want to network and want to drive the team better and want to do different things. So the importance of, growing that network and kind of, as you said, wearing the blazer might get you, a toe in the door, but it's the opportunity. And I think that if anyone ever let their school, wherever they went, define them, then, you're the one putting that barrier up. There should be no definition in where you go, because there's a network out there. If you join a local footy club or anything like that, the local footy clubs around here, AFLW, Duda Stars, huge networks with huge, value and everything like that. So
yeah,
even if you're the water boy.
That's what I wanted to kind of touch on as well. Is that, we're hopefully going to be talking to people all across the state in all different kinds of schools, and not just in cities, but in regional country towns and whatnot as well, talking about kind of how they can get their foot in a door if they don't have a massive network or whatever it might be. But something that is quite important to understand is you can make any network you want, right? So you touched on it there, like go to your local footy club, go to your local netball club, go to your local fill in the blank. There's people there, right? And if you get involved, just like you have in rowing or in footy or anything like that, you put yourself in there, then you're going to be talking and exposed to different people that you wouldn't have otherwise met. And that's the kind of, that's the point I wanted to bring across. And that's what came across so powerfully to me when we spoke last time. It's like, you've really made the most of every opportunity that's come your way. And it seems like it was kind of drilled into you at a young age from your dad.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, look, if you take, as we said, that private school bubble away, like during, like, the footy world, there's not that bubble in there with female footy. Like, that was everyone for themselves. But you touched on even the jobs, and, I'm a big believer in find a job that's relevant to where you want to get to and what you want to do at the end. But, being a rowing coordinator, I knew, you could manage people and personalities and all of that, but that wasn't going to get me to be a player agent, but, it was going to help my network. So there was a reason for that. But at the same time that, if you can go get your RSA and be, the barman of the local footy club, or, it's something like that that's connecting you into that business and connecting you into those people. Even if it's voluntary, like I did so much voluntary work. I was driving to Craigieburn from Calder Cannon. So I was going to University at Deakin in Burwood and driving to Craigieburn 3 or 4 nights a week after coaching at 6 a.m. to go volunteer and stand in the cold. I wasn't a coach. I was there to observe and, do that as an under 18-year-old level with Marty Ellison as the head coach. And he was like, yep, come along whenever you want. And if when people say that and you text them 4 times a week and saying, hey, can't make it today, sorry, being caught up at uni, it's like, get in the car, get there and make the opportunity, because if they're giving you access, take advantage of it. Know everyone, because there's so many people within that program now that are, high level at footy clubs and at footy clubs that I walk in and, oh, how you going? It's great to see you again. It's been years, as the evolution, how'd you get here? So there's always an importance in what you do, but not having an agenda. Like, I didn't do that because I knew so-and-so was going to be there later on to help me. I did it because I knew that, the network was important and that I had a really good interest, and I didn't care that I was the only girl there. I couldn't give a stuff. Like, it was, go in there and make it happen.
Alex, your motto is why wait for it to happen. Do you want to take us through that and where that came from and what that means to you?
Yeah, I think it, resonates a lot with what I did with, first of all, I guess the internship with Paul. I guess I didn't wait for the right opportunity to come. I wanted to just make it happen. So I went and made it happen, and I, made sure I did the due diligence before going to walk in the door and saying I deserve this. And then with footy as well, I knew I wasn't going to get drafted in Melbourne. I wasn't good enough, and I knew that, and I was really self-aware of that. But was I good enough to maybe get drafted in Sydney? Probably not. But did I make sure, I sold myself in the right way to get drafted? Yeah, I did. And I did use my network to get there as well. But I think that the really important part of that was, if I wait and kind of wait for the next year, it's just not going to happen. So if I don't do everything in my power right now to make this happen, it's not going to happen. I remember the drive that I went with Dad. Dad and I jumped in the car from Melbourne to Sydney. It was the weekend. It was the game before the grand final where Bulldogs beat the Giants that weekend, that great game at Spotless Stadium. I was a Bulldog supporter then. And we drove up the highway to watch that game on Saturday night, and then I had the trial at GWS Sunday morning. So it was a really big weekend, and, you're for a car, and I was like to Dad, we got to get home. Like, I'm, sculling bottles of water at the footy, and I'm like on edge a bit, like front row next to Jason McCartney's like kids, and, we're cheering. It was the best thing ever. My sister worked for the Bulldog time, so it was like a bit like everything. But then kind of walking into GWS Sunday morning with these trials, and, I was shit scared, but I didn't think I was better than anyone there. Did I think I had a better footy knowledge than most Sydney-based people? Yeah, but I didn't, not the fitness and all of that, but I just played to my strengths and made sure I, put myself out there as much as I could, because they didn't know me from a bar of soap. So, and then we jumped back in the car that night and drove back to Melbourne. Dad did, and I slept. But, I was anxious for 3 or 4 weeks. I remember waiting at my desk at kind of Sports, like waiting for this call. And I was like, oh my God, I'm never going to get it. Stuff this. I'm not going to make it. And I got a call saying they were going to take me as a free agent after the draft. And I was like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. So, there was that aspect, but then, even the aspect of, I think after my first year of playing AFLW in the Giants, I moved back down to Melbourne after spending 6 months in Sydney. And I kind of wanted to make the move then into the new business and go, I can do this for myself. Like, I can do this. And, I need to spend more time on this to make it better. And I knew the appetite was there, but I was like, I think I want to play footy for another year. I can't own my own business in management and also play footy professionally. Like, I was hiding behind Paul a little bit at that stage, so I had the security to play. Because, you probably shouldn't be a player manager and play as well. A little bit of conflict of interest, but anyway. And then I kind of got back from my second season, and within 2 months, it was the scariest conversation of my life. But, I wrote it down. I drove down to my beach house on a Saturday, I think it was a Anzac Day weekend, and sat at the beach and wrote my resignation, and then drove straight back and went to work the next day. And it took me 4 days to read it. And I went and met them. I remember texting Paul and Robbie, hey, can I come up and talk to you guys for a sec, just at a cafe where they'd gone to coffee? And Paul didn't think anything was up, but Robbie was like, something's up. I reckon she's going to resign. And I was like, I didn't know how you knew I was going to, but I sat there and was shaking reading the letter. And, I'm a pretty confident person, but it was heartbreaking for me to say, Paul, this is what I would love to do, but I would love your blessing to do it. I didn't want to say, this is what I'm doing, see ya. And, I really wanted to end that relationship, not end it, but, exit that the partnership with Connor Sports amicably. And we did not, I was heartbroken in the process of losing Daisy Pearce, and, I learned a lot through that. But, I think that's made me a better manager and a better person from having that loss within, that transition period. And I'm grateful to have only lost one, really, when I got to keep the likes of Kayla Harris, Katie Brennan and Darcy Vescio, and the list goes on. But I kind of, if I'm going to sit around and wait for things to happen, like my recent signing with a rugby sevens girl that I've just signed, if I wait for people to come to me, it's never going to happen. With even the soccer, I've got two great W League soccer players, and I'm having a great deal of conversations at the moment about how to internationalise the business and get into the Europe market and everything like that. So, if I sit back and wait for people to come to me, and I'm fortunate because a lot of athletes do come to me and ask for management, but the really good ones that I have are the ones that, I've worked really hard to get, but most importantly, really hard to retain. And, but I think that any opportunity, if you sit by and, let another year, like I could have easily let another year go by and stayed on a salary and, potentially played footy again. And I also, within that space of, the transition out of Connors into more than management, I had an amazing job opportunity from Sydney, like from the GWS Giants. I remember walking into my exit interview for the second season of playing, and, I didn't play that year because I had a really bad injury through my leg, and I was only available for selection in the last two rounds, and they'd won every game and they're on the verge of making the grand final. I was never going to make the team, and I knew that, but I was fortunate to be part of the journey and sat in the room and, I'm in tears, and I'm not a crier. I'm not an emotional person. I don't know what I want to do. Like, I don't know what I want to do with work. I don't know what I want to do with footy. I just didn't know. And, Alan McConnell at the time, who's a great mentor for me to this day, that, we went for a walk around Giants HQ, and Dave Matthews, the CEO, ended up joining the walk, and he said, "We want you here. We don't want you anywhere else. What job do you want? Where do you want to work? We want you here. I've told you that 8 times. I've told you that now for the past year. I want you to come and work here." And I said, stress. Like, I was stressed. I was like, if you want that, I should probably come and do that because that's the right thing to do. If you want that, it'd help you. And then I kind of sat back and, assessed the options with Dad. And Dad's I don't use Dad for Dad. I use Dad because he's my mentor, and, I make that distinct difference when I'm talking business with him. But I kind of sat back and I said, you know what? If I'm going to take it to my grave if this sports management new business doesn't work in more than management. But I also have a safety net. I've got that job at the Giants. I've got a great network. I've got great people around me. I'm not going to be unemployed if this doesn't work. So I knew that I wanted to give, more than management a crack at a minimum of a year to 2 years. And, I would not change that for the world. Now I'm over 2 years in and, loving every minute, and just employed my first employee. He did an internship with me, and I've got now him on 2 days, and it's happy days, really. So I guess, during COVID, it's like, why wait for it to happen? I shouldn't have employed an employee during COVID. But, the first day COVID hit, I said, opportunity here. Let's go 2 days a week. Let's see how you go and take off with it. The worst thing it can do is, crunch into a bit of my profit, and I take more of a hit. And you know what? I'm going to pay myself the lowest salary possible so I can put a better team around me to make the business better. But to most importantly, at the end of the day, give my clients a better product. So that's kind of my motto, I guess.
I think it's obviously served you very well, and that's a really cool explanation of your thinking there. Alex, I just wanted to touch on something that has come up a few times when we're speaking to particularly young women who have kind of, made a bit of a name for themselves in their respective industry. I just wanted to go kind of through your, rap sheet a little bit. Like you were a high school captain of your school. You were an elite rower, a very good footy player in your own right. You made the TSA Cup. You were in the under 18s for the youth girls. Then you went on to coaching at a really high level as well. Then you became an intern at one of the better sport management shops in the country. You made the AFLW, and now you're a player management in your own right. Do you ever take time to sit back and reflect on, hey, I've actually really achieved a lot here, and then use that as confidence for yourself? Because speaking to another few young women in particular, it seems like there is a little bit of there's more kind of self-doubt in their orbit, I guess, and that can sometimes prohibit their next step and their confidence in taking the next step. So I guess how important is it to sit back and be like, I've actually done a whole hell of a lot here, and I can continue to do that for the rest of my life?
I think we touched on this last when we spoke, Luke, and it's just I really struggle to reflect and kind of go, yeah, that was really good, and God, I just signed a 5-year Nike deal, I've just ticked over 2 years in a small business. Most small businesses fail in the first 2 years, and that's in female sport that has no money in it. I really struggle to do that, and it's something that I've been told by a lot of people that I need to get better at. But I think I'm just too ambitious is probably a bit of an arrogant word, but I am too ambitious to stop, reflect. I want to get better. I want to do better every day, because these girls and these athletes deserve it. I kind of reflected at my footy career, and I finished on a huge low in my last season. I went through a lot of mental struggles in terms of being injured and the transition. Like, my parents had just moved to New Zealand in the second year of footy, and every time I come back down to Melbourne, it was just like I'd come back for 24 to 48 hours to do work, and I was rushing up and back, and there was never a point in time where I sat back and really probably appreciated even being in an elite environment like the Giants until now. And the first year out of footy, that first year, I was really heartbroken. I was in awe of the girls that I managed watching, but I was heartbroken to not be part of the camaraderie of the team and all of that, and probably taking it for advantage a little bit and riding that wave. But I don't look back too much on what I do or what I've achieved, because I think life's too short for me. In particularly what I'm doing, I feel like I'm already behind, and I'm only 28, and I want to be better. I want to be more global. I want to have a bigger team around me, and I want to be better. Like, I want to be a boutique agency. I don't want to be a huge agency, but I want to make a difference. And that's just not on my profit sheet.
You're ahead of us. You certainly don't look behind from where I'm looking. That's for sure.
Yeah. So, and you guys would be really similar. Like, if you're not going to make the most of the opportunities that you've got, or with you guys working endless hours into the night and stuff, you've got to make your opportunities count. And every day and week's not going to be perfect. And I've learned that there's going to be conversations that you really let down by. There's going to be clients that you miss out on signing, or there's going to be deals you miss, and there's going to be people you're upset. There's going to be tough conversations, and I grow from tough conversations that I have with clients, and but making the most of each opportunity is kind of what I focus on, more or less, than kind of, I guess, reflecting on what I've done. I try to appreciate it, but I guess my main focus in life, instead of reflecting and going, yep, there's your gold medal, there's your this, there's your that, I kind of go, what's next? How do I get better? But most importantly, how do I get better, help the others that I've promised to help get better? And that's my job. Like, I've made an obligation to them. My obligation is to them, for them to help them get better through their journey. So how do I do that through myself and the business getting better?
I think that reflection is pretty cool. It's nice to hear. I find it cool to hear that you you've done all this stuff, and you just kind of go about your day, and you're like, oh, okay, well, what's next? But I think it's also really important that we do reflect, and I think you've done some super cool stuff. So kudos to you, Alex.
Thank you. No, you got to look back and you got to be proud. Like, it is important, because in a year or two, particularly during times like COVID, like, there's so many of my friends that have lost their jobs, but they've still got to look back and go, wow, look what I've done. It's really proud. I've got an amazing friend who moved to LA with her partner, and she gave up an amazing job here to go over there, and is really struggling to find a job. And she's one of the most intelligent people that I've connected with via friendship, and she can't find a job over there because of the times. And it's just like, why wouldn't you employ her? Like, and that's why for me, you got to be grateful, but reflect in a way. But I kind of reflect to get better, in that kind of sense. But I think, being an athlete, you can reflect on your numbers in the weights room, in the gym room, and you've got like really tangible areas to get better at, or your 2K time trial. And, I could do that as an athlete, but then I became really obsessed with numbers and, the skin folds and all of that kind of stuff. And, you can get really obsessed by that. So that's why I try to find the positive in trying to move forward a lot more.
I think it's some great advice, and we're nearly out of time, Alex, but I think there's heaps more to unpack there. So maybe a 2.0 down the track to see how you follow up. But just where to leave it, is there anything that you'd like to, I guess, impart on younger students, say in the back end of high school, or people studying something along the lines of sports management at the moment in uni, wanting to crack into the field and maybe give them some advice for their next step?
Yeah, definitely. I think that, anyone that's coming out of uni or coming out of school, find a job that's really relevant to where you want to go to. And if you can't find that job, find a job that helps support you earn money in a like a job discipline, but then can help assist you go and do an internship where you're not going to get paid. So, go and pickpacket at Border Express on a night shift and then go do 3 days of an internship during the week. Find those jobs that, I'm not someone that says go and do something and, like you're fortunate enough for your background that you can just go do free internships all the time. Absolutely not. Like, go find jobs that help assist you do those internships if you can't find a job in the field or in a field that kind of surrounds what you want to do. So like in the first stage of COVID that I thought my income was going to plummet, I went and did pickpacking at Border Express 4 nights a week because I didn't want to preempt what was going to happen. Did I need to do that now? No, I didn't, but I did it just in case. And I ended up getting 8 of my clients' jobs there because they're like, oh, wow, I can, get up, train in the morning, have the day, and then I can go to work. And I think that type of job, can work. It's a pretty crap job, really crap job, and I didn't like it, but does it help, free up your day to get better and do what you want to do in a chosen work discipline? Yeah, it does. But just take any opportunity that comes your way in an internship, in a voluntary capacity or anything. But, really utilize the network and people you've got around you, not in an agenda-based kind of way, but in a genuine way and having interest in who they are as a person and, their journey to where they got to and how they got there is something, they're conversations I love having. And, I'm happy to, if anyone, listening wants to, have a chat or, I'm more than happy to, have a further conversation with anyone. I've had quite a few, during COVID over Zoom, and I'm the first one, when someone emails me and wants to catch up for a coffee and understand my journey, I'm the first one to say yes and make that time, because that's how I got my internship. And I think that's really important that, people like myself or higher level execs, give back, not unnecessarily to thousands of people because you still have a job to do, but, give time back to kids that, want to be you. And I find that really exciting that, you've got more people coming through that want to be involved in female sport, male and female. And, it's in a really exciting time that, I feel like right now I want to give back more than ever I'm not out there volunteering at a community coaching level anymore because I don't have the time to, but what else can I do, in the community to help? And I'm really big on that at the moment and, trying to do different things with, even Indigenous organisations. Red Dust is an organisation we work with really closely that go to the NT and, do trips to help it, give back. And that's something that I'm really passionate to do. And I'm happy to speak to anyone that, wants to hear more, definitely.
I think that's fantastic advice. And I think that's awesome that you like the attitude of giving back. It's huge. Alex, just wanted to thank you for coming on the show today. It's been great to learn about what being a player manager is like and how important hard work and being a real person and having good, proper relationships with people is.
Thanks for having me, Luke. Thanks for having me, Sarge. I appreciate you having me on. And good luck with the rest of the guests. And good luck with it.
Thanks, Alex. Cheers.